Hello once again and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be covering the different classes and their abilities that are available in the demo of the DioField Chronicle. We'll talk a little bit about what each one does and some of the best ways to use them. Provided there is interest, I may do an expanded version of this video after the full release later this month. But with the intro out of the way, let's jump into this class and ability overview. First up, we have the Soldier class. At the start, we have two playable characters in the Soldier class, Andreas and Cavalier. The Soldier class is somewhat versatile in that it can be used as a tank or as a damage dealer depending on which character and abilities you're using. Andreas, with his lower defense but high attack, is great for dealing damage, and his abilities, Assassination and Leaping Attack, show that he is meant to be a hard-hitting attacker. Cavalier, on the other hand, has low attack power, but she has the best defense of any character. She can be a great controller and tank with her Shield Bash, Shield Charge, and Shield Wall abilities. Moving on now to the actual abilities and their uses, first we'll talk about Assassination. Assassination provides the highest single target damage of all the abilities on this list. It is excellent for finishing off a foe once they are around half to a quarter of their health, and for freeing up your units to go after someone else. Even better, and something I didn't realize until I made this video, if Assassination does finish off the enemy, its cooldown is set to 0, meaning you could potentially chain assassinations together to finish off full groups of enemies. That's pretty cool.
On my way.
Next up is Leaping Attack. This ability is great for mobility, allowing you to get behind enemies for flanking damage, or to hit archers or mages in the backline. Use it in conjunction with Assassination for some cool acrobatic damage. On the defensive side of things, let's start with Shield Bash. Shield Bash deals okay damage, but its real use is in the ability to inflict stun on your target. Stun, of course, can slow an enemy down and keep them stationary for a moment, but I found the best use of any ability that stuns is as an interrupt for enemies charging abilities. Then we have Shield Charge. This ability does light damage, but interrupts and provokes its target. Shield Charge also has some range to it as well, but beware that the first enemy in its path is the one it will hit, so you may have to maneuver a bit to hit the target you want. This ability can be useful if you need to close some distance fast and interrupt an enemy's ability. Finally, for the Soldier class, we have the Shield Wall. This is a great control ability, allowing your soldier to draw all the enemies in the vicinity, and is one of my favorites. This ability can be used to hold choke points and to draw enemies into the range of multiple AoE abilities available to the other units. Use this to draw enemies away from your other units, and then blast them with AoEs, and since only one unit is taking most of the damage, just focus any healing efforts on your soldier. Next up in our class list is the Cavalier. At the start, we have Frederick as our lone Cavalier. Frederick is similar in stats to Andreas, but with higher defense and HP. If Andreas is our single target damage dealer, then Frederick is our multi-target damage dealer, as all his Cavalier abilities target multiple enemies. Frederick also has the highest speed, allowing him to line up his attacks quickly for maximum effect, or draw enemies into our traps. So first up on the list of Cavalier abilities is Full Frontal Assault. This one is another great flanking ability, as you can use it to run through several enemies in a straight line, and wind up behind them. It could also be used to get out of range of an enemy's ability if you can't stun them in time. Next is Furious Flurry. This is pretty much just your basic multi-attack, as it hits all enemies within a cone in front of you. The damage it does seems underwhelming to me, though that could change in the full release. The best time to use this would be after getting behind a group of enemies to get the extra flanking damage out of it. Last on the list is Mounted Charge. This one just seems to me like a much better version of Furious Flurry. It does more damage, has much better range, and pushes enemies back. This one is great for making some space or pushing enemies toward other enemies to make the best out of an AoE from your archer or Makicker. It is also great for creating room for a segue and letting me remind you to like the video if you're enjoying it, and to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so YouTube can let you know when I post new content. Also, don't forget to leave a comment if you have any more ideas to add on how to use all the different abilities. Alright, moving on.
Very well. You call that?
Ranged classes tend to be some of my favorites, and the Archer in DioField Chronicle does not disappoint with some pretty useful abilities. Iskarian is our only Archer at the start, though we do get one more for the last mission. I won't be covering her here as we really don't get much time with her in the demo. With a decently high attack, Iskarian can do some decent damage while staying safely in the back line. But if an enemy gets to him, he can go down quickly.
Understood.
The first Archer ability is Rain of Arrows. This one is a decent AoE attack that also inflicts delay, slowing down the enemies it hits. I don't really have any specific advice for this one, other than maybe using it to slow far away enemies and give yourself a few extra seconds to finish off enemies that you have already engaged. Second, we have Stun Shot. This is the ability I find myself using most often to interrupt enemy abilities since, as the name suggests, it inflicts stun at range. Being a ranged ability, it's easy to hit an enemy my units are engaged with at a moment's notice without having to maneuver someone into place first. Finally, for the Archer we have Fantail Formation, which is great at piling on damage over time in a corridor area if you can keep enemies within it. This skill can be particularly useful in tight spots like bridges, where you can hold the enemies to a narrow passage with your melee units. Finally, for the classes, we have the Makicker. Waltacoin is our only option for now, and none of her stats stand out as particularly special. But she is our only healer. As such, she comes in handy extending our team's time on the battlefield. The first ability for the Makicker class is Hurried Heal. The heal is relatively cheap to use at only 15 EP and restores 30% of max health, which is a pretty decent chunk. It also has only a 5-second cooldown, allowing you to use it frequently. Best to use it to keep everyone's health above 50%, as allowing it to drop further may not give you enough time to get around to healing everyone before someone goes down. Next on the list is Meteor Fall, which is a decent AoE attack. The damage it does is okay, but the real advantage is just how large this AoE is. Meteor Fall can easily hit 3 or more enemies even if they aren't right next to each other. If you've already hit a group with something like Bahamut, you can use this attack to finish off stragglers. Lastly, we have Convalescent Circle. This is an excellent AoE heal for your team that has the added bonus of reviving fallen allies as well. Convalescent Circle will give your units and its AoE small bits of health in regular intervals until it runs out. This can be a great way to heal your whole party at once in between engagements as well, provided you have the time. Hopefully, this video has given you a good rundown of the abilities available to us so far in the demo and how to use them. Should there be significant changes or additions in the full release, I may put out an updated video on the characters and their abilities. Don't forget you can watch this video here if you'd like to see more of my content, and as always, thank you for watching, and keep on gaming.